Woohoo! So, drugs, they exist. We do them, especially in college. As many of our viewers might know, I will soon be going off to college. So I'm trying to figure out, should I do drugs in college? And since you have been to college and have done drugs, I figured I'd ask you, what was your experience like that? So, first of all, did you do drugs in college?
I didn't do any drugs as an undergraduate. So, and nothing. I didn't drink coffee. I didn't drink booze. I didn't do anything.
You never?
Pretty much never. Yeah, I think never. I really I really think actually never. And that wasn't a principled thing or anything really. It just wasn't part of the. I went to a Christian school, right? So it just wasn't part of the. It wasn't part of our culture necessarily. Probably made up for that in graduate school. I then was very experimental.
Right. So you didn't do any drugs as an undergrad because you were in a Christian school, is that it?
No. I said it just wasn't part of the culture, right? So it probably made that more likely. Mm-hmm. Quite honestly, I was very focused as a student as an undergrad.
Right.
So, I worked hard, quite honestly. So, I don't know, it just wasn't part of my life. Just didn't even really cross my mind necessarily.
If you didn't do any drugs at all in undergraduate school, then why did you start doing drugs in graduate school?
Well, I think that I wanted to experiment, right? I mean, I'm someone who is interested in the mind, in consciousness, and exploring the world. And I felt that I probably had, been a little sheltered at this school I was at previously. So I wanted to understand. It was really, for me, it's always about understanding, right?
Right, of course. Okay, so you have had experience with drugs. So what's your opinion on drugs in terms of, like, if they're good for you or bad for you, or morality of them? Like, do you think all drugs are bad, or do you have a different opinion?
No, I don't think all drugs are bad. I don't think it's a moral issue at all necessarily, except for insofar as we've talked about ethics, and I still believe in the core principles we talked about. It's about leading the good life.
Yeah.
I think drugs are very tricky when it comes to leading the good life, but they can have their purposes.
Let's explore your thoughts on specific drugs.
All right.
Of which we have many. Category 2.1, stimulants. First on our list, we have coffee. That's kind of the classic college drug. Everyone's addicted to coffee. Everyone's staying up late, pulling all-nighters, doing the work. I have to admit, I was surprised to hear that you didn't drink coffee in undergrad. Because although not drinking alcohol at a Christian school would be understandable if you're, like, focused on work, coffee seems to others to be sort of equivalent with the act of doing work. So when did you start using coffee? And why didn't you do it in undergrad?
I didn't use coffee at all in any of my schooling. I started that when I worked. And I don't even think I started drinking coffee right after school. I think I started drinking coffee in New York. Why I didn't, once again, it wasn't like a principled thing or anything. It just wasn't something that I was doing. I like people who drink coffee. I thought they were cool. It just wasn't my thing. Once I got into it in New York, and it's become an important part of my life.
How does it affect you?
Well, coffee amps me up, right? And if I haven't done it for a while, like if I'm being, somewhat regulated on it, it can really actually amp me up pretty good. And it gives me a little euphoria too. Like it's a good amped up. But I have to be extreme. Honestly, I have to be pretty careful with caffeine. It stays in my system a long time. It definitely affects my sleep.
Right.
I definitely cannot do coffee in the afternoon at all. One of my favorite things is an espresso after dinner. I totally can't do. Like, I occasionally will do that just because I like it so much. But it's terrible for me. I don't sleep at all that night. So it's a real drug for me.
So you've already kind of described your relationship with it, which is that like it's a part of your life, but you're careful with it.
Yeah, I do manage coffee. I go in phases, right?
Right.
I go in phases with almost everything. With coffee, there have been many years where I've gone without intentionally, just because I do feel like I'm a little bit. I feel like I like the steadiness of my mindset.
Yeah.
But your mom has always been 100% coffee drinker every morning, and I have equipment, like I'm an espresso guy, right? So I like to tinker with it, and that kind of gets me into it again. And I love the flavor. I love the taste of coffee. I love everything about coffee. I love all kinds of coffee. I like bad coffee, good coffee, careful coffee, whatever. But I am careful with it because it does affect me mentally, and it affects my digestive system. And I'm an old man now, and that stuff affects me that way.
Right. So you wouldn't consider yourself addicted to it or anything? Or would you?
No, I'm not addicted to coffee. I can quit coffee. I can have coffee around and not drink it. So no, I'm not addicted to coffee.
So would it be a good idea or a bad idea to drink coffee in college? I know you didn't drink coffee in college, but in terms of my coffee experience and your experience with the coffee outside of college.
Well, listen, like I've always felt like the coffee crowd is kind of cool. I think it can be a nice social thing as well.
Okay.
In terms of like overall, mental health and well-being, it's probably better not to have that caffeine in your system. I definitely don't think you should become like one of these, like, I'm a coffee person. I drink like 9 cups a day.
Yeah.
Like
some people we know.
Yeah, I feel like that's gross. I feel like that really can affect you.
I mean, because at that point, that's a serious addiction.
Well, I've had friends who have quit coffee cold turkey who drank like that. In fact, or Mountain Dew or whatever it was, high caffeine concentrations. And dude, the withdrawals suck. Like, you've had headaches, and it's real.
So you think that coffee could be helpful for college, and you could definitely hang out with the coffee crowd, but you should try not to become too dependent on it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to summarize your thoughts. Okay. So let's move on to the second drug on the list, still in the category of stimulants, Adderall. So when did you start using Adderall?
So Adderall was not part of college culture when I went to college. That probably kicked in maybe a decade at least after I went to college. I've done Adderall a very few times. I don't like it. I like drugs socially. I don't use drugs for performance enhancement. Adderall makes me feel more sober than I would ever feel normally, like hyper sober, a little more focused. And when I'm sober, I'm a pretty focused person anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't need it. I have limited experience with it. Certainly wasn't part of my college experience. And I'll just answer I'll just kind of close this one off a little bit because I don't have a ton with it. But I find the idea of using it's a performance enhancing drug in college, and I just find that to be an extremely dangerous thing to start that young.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, obviously there's medical conditions where it's required and helpful, but just doing it to focus on a test or something, I think that's a bad habit to get into. Yeah.
How would you describe its effect on you compared to coffee? Like, what's like the differences and similarities?
Well, it doesn't amp me up as much. Coffee amps me up and is a little more euphoric.
Yeah.
Adderall brings me down, really. It makes me like,
okay.
Kind of like really locked in. It's not fun. There's nothing fun about Adderall.
Okay. So a no for college. Yeah. So number 3, cocaine.
Nice.
Number 4, heroin. Okay, so the heroin is not on this list. So when did you start using cocaine?
Graduate school. And
so how did it affect you?
Well, so when I was in school, you could get good cocaine. I was in New York.
Right, of course.
And
New York loves cocaine.
In terms of like drugs, it's like I have to rank it pretty high, like in terms of its overall effect. Like I like snorting cocaine back then. I would also cook it into crack.
Of course.
And so cocaine is like the classic addictive drug.
Yeah, that's
right. Like you do cocaine one time, and it's like 15 minutes later, you're like,
let's do it again.
Man, I could do some more cocaine. And so it's, it has that immediate effect, which for me was a good thing.
Right.
Because it made me like immediately super wary of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was like, you are not, there's no trickiness when it comes to cocaine. It's very straightforward.
Like it's that addictive now, how addictive will it be later?
Right, exactly. Like, so I was always, for someone who, who would, cook it into crack and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But overall, I was pretty careful with it.
Okay. So how exactly did it make you feel?
It makes you feel like you're awesome. Like it gets you like, when you're like, man, I feel good. Man, I'm like, wow, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm feeling like I got energy,
you can do anything?
Yeah, you feel confident. You feel like, man, I want to go out and, and it's like, you feel like you like everything. Everything's pretty positive. Mm-hmm. It's a great feeling. What I really, besides understanding its immediate addictiveness, the come down from cocaine is terrible.
Right.
It's also one of the worst come downs.
And that would add to its addictiveness.
Yeah, because you just feel like shit, and it's very fast. It doesn't last in your system very long. So it's like one of these super highs, super lows, super highs, super lows.
Yeah, that's really unsustainable.
And I hate come downs. I was pretty careful with cocaine. I haven't done it in a long time, and that's not because I wouldn't. It's just it just hasn't been around for me necessarily.
Yeah, and that's probably a good thing considering how we're describing it.
Probably a good thing overall.
Okay, so but probably a bad thing for college, or not?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Well, so let me just be. Let's get into it now. First,
shouldn't do cocaine.
In college now.
Yeah.
You absolutely should not do cocaine because you cannot get cocaine in America anymore.
Okay.
You're almost everything that is purportedly cocaine is, I personally think, is very low grade, very low purity cocaine mixed with other stimulants, and most importantly, it's mixed with fentanyl now.
Yeah.
And the problem with using an opiate with a stimulant like cocaine is opiates have a way longer half-life than cocaine does.
Right.
And so opiates slow down your heart rate, cocaine brings your heart rate up, right? So what you can do is you'll do some cocaine mixed with fentanyl, and the balance will keep your heart relatively stable.
Right.
But then the cocaine wears off faster, and the fentanyl takes over, and it can stop your heart. So the most common way to overdose on drugs, like the easiest way to overdose on drugs, is to do a stim with an opioid.
Okay.
There's no way I would touch cocaine in the United States right now because I don't believe it really exists.
Yeah. Okay. So cocaine for you had a very high, but it was also low, addictive, and it's not readily available in the U.S. anymore. So you shouldn't do it because it could genuinely be like immediately dangerous.
Absolutely. You could. It happens all the time.
You could take it once you die.
There are dozens of people every day in the United States who die from doing, having a night out doing what they think is cocaine.
Yeah. Okay. So, stay away.
Yeah, just bad situation.
It's not even that it's like a bad drug. It's that because of the way that it's being produced in the U.S. right now, it's not even like what it's called.
Yeah, really hard to get cocaine right now in the United States.
So, number 4, we have methamphetamine, or meth, because it's meth. When did you start using meth?
Meth is a little bit like an Adderall for me. Like it wasn't really part of the drug scene when I was younger. Meth really stormed into America after I graduated. Mm-hmm. So being like more of a cocaine guy, like I was kind of considered it like low grade cocaine.
Of course.
So just very briefly, maybe a couple of times I've done meth. It's a terrible smoke. I don't like the smoke. Whereas crack cocaine is a great smoke. It lasts longer than cocaine, but it doesn't give you the same level of euphoria. Yeah. So it's like a super stim. Okay. And it's long lasting. And
what's the crash like afterwards?
Yucky. It's bad like cocaine. Okay. And that's what I'm going to talk about with methamphetamine. I don't have a lot of experience with it. Poor man's cocaine.
All the bad things, none of the good things.
But the only better thing about methamphetamine is it lasts longer. Yeah. Which is literally the worst thing about cocaine.
And is it less addictive than cocaine, or is it around the same?
No, I would say that those are both super addictive.
Okay,
And,
very addictive.
and the one thing I will also say for methamphetamine is the United States produces and has some of the best methamphetamine in the world.
Right.
Because we just...
So if it's choice between cocaine and meth, obviously go for meth. But
Well, no, if it's a choice between cocaine and meth, do cocaine, but you can't get cocaine. So
if it's the choice between U.S. cocaine and U.S. meth, obviously do meth. All right, but should I do it in college?
No, that's a bad idea, right? I mean, you don't need stimulants. Get your required level of sleep. People get highly addicted to methamphetamine. You know, there's nothing good about that.
Right. Okay. So that concludes our section on stimulants. We hope that you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please consider checking out the next one in the series.
Or some of our other series on philosophy and life.
We upload videos every Friday, so don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. See you next week.